In a small town in Nigeria lived a young boy named Daniel Okoro. Daniel and his mother, Mama Grace, did not have much. They lived in a one-room apartment with an old zinc roof that became noisy whenever rain fell. Life was not easy. Mama Grace sold roasted corn and groundnuts by the roadside. Every morning, before the sun came out, she would wake up, tie her wrapper, and go to work. She had only one dream. She wanted Daniel to go to school and become somebody important. Daniel, she always said, education is something nobody can take away from you. Daniel loved his mother deeply. He knew how much she suffered for him. Many times, he saw her come home tired, her feet swollen, but she still smiled whenever she looked at him. That smile gave him strength. Daniel was a bright boy in some ways, but school was not easy for him. He tried very hard, but some subjects felt like heavy stones in his head. Mathematics confused him. Science was difficult. Many times, he studied all night and still could not understand what others understood quickly. After secondary school, Mama Grace managed to send him to the university. Daniel got admission to study computer science. The day he entered school, his mother cried with joy. "My son will wear a graduation gown one day," she said proudly. Daniel smiled, but inside, he was worried. University was harder than he expected. The school fees were high. Books were expensive. Transport was a problem. And the lessons moved faster than he could follow. Every day, Daniel tried to keep up, but it felt like he was running after a bus that would not stop. Slowly, fear entered his heart. One evening, after sitting alone under a tree on campus, Daniel asked himself a painful question. What if this is not where I am meant to shine? There was one thing Daniel had always loved. He loved stories. He loved acting. He loved making people laugh. Even as a child, he could imitate people in the neighborhood so well that everyone would laugh until tears. He was creative. Very creative. But he never thought that talent could change his life. As the months passed, things became worse. Daniel could no longer meet up with school expenses. He also knew he was falling behind academically. At last, with a heavy heart, he made a painful decision. He dropped out. But he did not tell Mama Grace. He knew her health was not strong. He feared that the news would break her heart. So whenever she called, he pretended. "How is school?" she would ask. "Fine, Mama," Daniel would answer. "Are you eating well?" "Yes, Mama." He hated lying to her. But he kept telling himself, "One day I will explain everything." Life became harder. Daniel stayed with a friend in Lagos. Sometimes they ate once a day. Sometimes not at all. But Daniel did not give up. One afternoon, his friend said to him, "Daniel, you are funny. Why don't you start making videos?" At first, Daniel laughed. "Who will watch me?" "People will," his friend replied. "Just start." That night, Daniel borrowed a phone. He recorded a short funny video. The next day, a few people watched it. Then more people. Then many more. People liked the way he acted. They liked his expressions. They liked how natural he was. For the first time in a long while, Daniel felt hope. He kept creating content. Morning. Afternoon. Night. He worked hard. He learned. He improved. He failed many times, but he kept going. Then one day, one of his videos spread everywhere. Suddenly, Everybody wanted to know who he was. His name began to travel. From Lagos to Abuja. From Abuja to London. From London to America. Soon, movie producers started calling him. At first, he got small roles. Then bigger roles. Then lead roles. Daniel was no longer just a content creator. He became an actor. A powerful actor. A loved actor. Years passed. Daniel became one of the biggest names in entertainment. He bought his mother a beautiful house. He bought her a car. He made sure she never sold roasted corn again. The world knew his name. He acted in international films. He walked on red carpets. He signed huge deals. He became a billionaire. But even with all the fame and money, one thing stayed in his heart. He had unfinished business. He had left school without finishing. One quiet evening, Daniel sat alone in his big house. He remembered his mother's words. Education is something nobody can take away from you. That sentence would not leave his mind. So Daniel did something that surprised everyone. He went back to school. Quietly. Humbly. Not because he needed money. Not because he needed fame. But because he wanted to finish what he started. He returned to study computer science. This time, he was older. More focused. More disciplined. And something was different. He no longer studied because he was afraid. He studied because he wanted to grow. Years later, Daniel finally stood on a stage wearing a graduation gown. When they called his name, he walked forward slowly. He smiled. But his eyes were full of tears. In the audience sat Mama Grace. She was clapping proudly. After the ceremony, Daniel held her hands. "Mama," he said softly, "there is something I must tell you." She looked at him. He told her everything. How he dropped out. How he struggled. How he hid the truth because he was afraid for her health. How he slept hungry. How he kept believing. Mama Grace was silent for a long time. Then tears rolled down her cheeks. "My son," she said, "you carried all this alone." Daniel nodded. She touched his face gently. "You did not fail me," she said. "You made me proud." Daniel could not hold back his tears. He hugged her tightly. At that moment, all the pain of the past felt lighter. The poor boy from the small zinc house had become a global star. But more importantly, he had become a man who never gave up. And Daniel learned something he would never forget. Sometimes your road may look different from others. Sometimes you may fall behind. But if you keep walking, your story can still become beautiful. And in the end, Daniel lived happily, successful, fulfilled, and grateful. Because the dream his mother carried in her heart had finally come true.